Greetings friends! Recently in one of my previous videos, my fam and I visited our friends at White House on the Hill, Jake and Becky. And they gave us a tour of their homestead. And in that video, it was the first part of the tour, they shared with us their brooder that they have set up, the pigs that they're raising, and their really neat and fancy chicken coop that they have for their main egg layers. Well, in this video, the tour continued. Jake showed me his turkeys that they are raising and their really neat chicken tractors. I guess they're called turkey tractors, but they're really neat. And also, in this tour, he showed me a number of rare birds that they are raising on their homestead.
And they're staying in the Omelette Coop. Whenever we do a breeding project, we use this coop. It's really easy to move around. We've got eggs will be just right in there. And then it's really easy to just lift and pull on the wheels. So it can only fit like 8 chickens comfortably. And so we just have to use it in small groups. So that's usually why we just use it on breeding projects. We've got this, we came up with this design last year for these little chicken tractors. So they'd be a little smaller than the big ones. The original like chicken tractor I built back in the day, like 2016 or something like that, before we had a YouTube channel, was like this height and just had a pole, and I'd pull it and it was falling apart and we didn't really like it, and so we took apart most of it, but we kept the frame of it that was like that up to there. And so then we used it and remodeled it to work so it's something that we could semi get. I can go in, it's only 5 feet tall, so it's a little short, but I can get in there and at least get to the chickens. Before, it was a really short thing it'd be really hard. I'd have to get down in there and maneuver to like try to get the chickens. So this way we were able to get in there a lot easier, hang food and water. And these are all of our cochins, our frizzles, and then we have a salmon faverol in there. And so they're almost big enough where we can move them with the Bantam flock, but we keep them in here for now.
Now with your omelet, will you let the chickens the hens naturally sit on the eggs and hatch them, or will you incubate them?
No, so usually when we do breeding projects, it's either a little bit for us, but it's mostly for somebody specific. If somebody, like another YouTube channel, asks us for some eggs or something like that. We did that last year, and this year we brought some breeding pairs in there. We did Lavender Orpingtons last year. We did our Ayam Chamanis this year. So we'll just bring them in there, have them lay eggs, and then we'll ship out those eggs, and then sometimes we'll do like giveaways or sell some eggs to some of our viewers. And so that's pretty much all they're for. Last year I hatched out a couple more Ayam Chamanis, but we usually don't do too much. Usually I'm trying to get more varieties on our flock, so usually I don't do a lot of breeding projects here for myself. Usually I try to go find different breeds that I don't have, just so we have a good variety of them. We like lots of egg colors and lots of varieties and breeds, and we'll see a few of those over there. We got some pretty cool ones. We used to keep all the animals like really close to the yard, so we wouldn't have to walk far with the 5-gallon buckets of water. But now that we've got that, now we haul, it takes about 2 to 3 fill-ups every morning of about 9 5-gallon buckets. And so we'll just drive them from area to area each morning. At night we just do the chores, so we'll just closing them up, and so we just run around and walk around, but in the morning we've got to haul all that water around.
So with all the chores that you have in the morning, approximately how long does it take you to get them all done?
With or without kids, Becky?
It's way faster without kids.
We found out the other day, well, normally we do it with the kids, and so with the vehicle they all get out, and then it takes forever to get them all back into the vehicle, and so it takes us like hour and a half, 2 hours.
Gotta hold the chicken.
Well, some of that's like because I love to get some Instagram content in the morning, take some pictures with the chickens, and they've got a favorite over here, a favorite chicken, and so some of that's my fault, some of that's their fault, but it just takes like a couple hours. in the morning, and then like at night, I mean, it's like 15 minutes we run around and get it all closed up. We're quick, but without the kids,
Like
we can do it about an hour. So we let the chickens roam around. These are all our Bantam flock. There's about 20 of them. So this is where we got some funner breeds here. That's a chamois Spitzalbin. We got some hatching eggs from Greenfire Farms, and so that's a really fun guy right there. I think he's from, I want to say he's maybe from Switzerland. We've got a silver Seabright, a golden Polish, and so we used to try to raise Polish and Silkies with our main chicken flock, and they kept getting killed. They just, everything would go for their big floofs, their big poofs on their head.
Bubbles.
And so then we decided to split them off and have their own flock, and we don't have any of those issues anymore now that we have them separated. This over here is Bubbles, and we got her from a viewer this year.
We got her from a farm store.
And so a one-eyed chicken with a crossbeak, and nobody wanted her at the farm store, and so they took her aside and just raised her, and then they messaged me at Tractor Supply, and they messaged me and asked if we'd come take her in. So we thought she was pretty cool. So she's definitely a favorite of our 2-year-old Isaiah, and so every morning he comes running out like going Bubbo, Bubbo, Bubbo.
That's neat.
Have you guys had any crossbeaks?
We haven't.
I've not.
So we've got 2 of them.
Yeah.
One we got from McMurray was that I can't remember the actual color, but it's like the white Polish right there.
Yes.
So she's got a crossbeak too. So she's well over a year. Usually they'll die fairly quickly.
If they can't figure out how to
Yeah, because they have trouble eating, because one, their beak's going to keep on growing because it doesn't close together. And so their beak just keeps on growing down and keeps on growing out. And so eventually it gets pretty hard for them to live a real long time. We can trim their beak back a little bit.
Trimmed hers, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't trimmed this one yet. Probably needs to be trimmed a little bit.
So how do you trim it?
You can either shave it a little bit or you can clip a little bit. You just gotta be careful with the clip that you don't go too far and hit blood, but just like kind of like a fingernail when you're trimming it. So you can kind of tell where it gets the color gets lighter and where it gets darker, where the blood's at. And so a lot of times they die early on, but she's now 5-6 months old, and then the one in there is well over a year old, so they're doing all right.
Wow.
But you'll see when they eat that they like turn their head sideways, and they've got to do things that normal chickens won't have to try to get food up in their beak, because they can't close it down exactly, so they've really got to get it almost right to the back of their mouth. If you notice the honk,
What is that?
that's our peacock blue. And so we hatched a peafowl pair. There are almost 3. They're 3 next month. We hatched them out 3 years ago. And so they're in their 2nd full year of laying eggs. Last year none of them were fertile. This year I haven't got any of them to hatch yet either. So they've been laying some eggs, but
There's 3 in there right now.
there's 3 in there, so I might try one more time. He just dropped all his feathers, and usually that means it's end of season, that they're not fertile anymore. So we'll see if these last 3 are fertile, but I think we just got about 20 to 30 eggs, maybe 25 eggs from them this year. So, but each year his tail's gonna get longer. They're gonna lay more eggs. They should be fertile from here on out. So, but there are 2 that are gonna go back into the aviary, so they'll have a lot more space next year. So these guys are Mandarin Ducks. We started out with, we got 6 hatching eggs from them from eBay, and we hatched out our original 6, and they were all the standard color, which is the brown color. And then the next year we added so about 2 years ago we added the whites, and we ordered the 4 whites from a farm out in Tennessee, and so they shipped the birds to us. And then everything else, we've got 2 other chicken tractors on the very ends, and those are all their offspring. And so ideally these will all go into the aviary. We're building a pond out there because these guys are waterfowl and they would love to be able to swim. We just can't keep them outside because they would potentially fly away unless you want to pinion them, which is completely taking off a wing, and we didn't really want to do that to them. So We're just waiting for that. Now their color is, they all kind of look like what the females normally look like right now. During the winter and spring, they look amazing. The males look so cool. They're really colorful. They got a million colors on them, but they drop all of it as soon as breeding season's done. So we won't get those colors back until about the winter.
So is this about as big as these guys would get, or do they get any bigger than this?
Yes, if you've ever seen like call ducks are really tiny ducks that a lot of people will have around their farm. Well, those are about the same size as these. And so yeah, these are full size. And yeah, I think we saw them and saw how beautiful they were about, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Whenever we saw them, we heard about this duck in the New York Central Park, and they had like a random Mandarin duck end up flying there, and they're out in the wild. You'll see them there, but you won't see them a ton. They're a relative of the wood duck, is native to North America. This is like I think the Asian version of like the wood duck, and so they look very similar as ducklings compared to the wood duck. So we just thought they were really cool when we saw that, and we wanted to try them out. And I found the hatching eggs, and we hatched them out, and they're probably they're really skittish and wild, but they're some of my favorite birds we have. When they're in full color, they look just amazing. So that's probably what I'm most excited about of all the birds going to the aviary, is to see these guys actually get to fly around and be in a pond and not have to worry about them getting out. I'm really excited for that.
These are beautiful ducks, they really are.
And the white ducks look really plain. There's a male in there. He gets a little bit more of the males get like this weird shaped head. Right now you can't even see it because they lost all those feathers, but they get almost where their head looks like it's flat. When you look straight at them, it looks like it's flat, and then so it gets really tall, and it gets gold. It gets a golden coloring in it, and so they have a little bit of gold on their body and in their head. And so the white males look really cool. The white females are always just white, but they're a little rarer than the standard color. I'm finding, now that I've got extras, I'm selling some to our viewers, and I thought they would want the whites because they're more rare. They're more expensive to get, but everybody wants the standard color because they're so cool and colorful. Here, let's go inside.
There we go. That'd be even better.
Here's one of their feathers.
One of these, Sailor? Pretty feather, isn't he?
Come on in here.
Alrighty.
Alright, so these are our red golden pheasants. We got a tip on these from a viewer about 3 years ago, and we ended up buying a breeding pair from McMurray Hatchery through their website, and they shipped them to us. At the time, it was the most expensive bird we had bought, and the shipping was pretty pricey for us, for sure at the time. Since then, we keep one-upping ourselves in what we get, but at the time it was definitely an investment. And so that breeding pair has led to a couple years worth of pheasants now. And these guys, so we've got this male here. We had an original male named Fire. He ended up dying. We used to use some kind of netting here at the door to keep them from flying out when we opened the door. And everybody was good, but one day he got tangled up in it somehow and he ended up getting strangled. So we ended up taking out that netting, but we had to get another male. And so this is Blaze. And then everybody else in here is his offspring. And right now they all look like female, but some of these are still in their first year. And so at about a year old, some of them will start to turn orangish. And then about a year and a half, then they start to look like Blaze does. And he's even dulled down from what he will be in full season. He gets a little more, he's starting to get his feathers back. His feathers look good on his neck. They've all grown back in, but his tail will get about twice as long.
Wow. That's pretty amazing that they'll go from that dull of a color to that drastic of a vibrant of a color. That's pretty amazing.
The male looks amazing for sure. I'm sure we probably have 1 or 2 males in here yet. They just haven't turned color yet. So these guys are the only regulated bird on our farm by our state conservation department. And so when we got these, we actually had to get a permit to have them. And so we actually have Department of Conservation officer will come out every year and he inspects this area. He inspects like that we're giving them like clean water, and then that we're actually keeping track of what we have, and so we're not letting them out into the population and messing with the current population of pheasants out in the wild. And so we've got to have a permit, we've got to pay an annual fee, and then we have little leg bands that we put on all the adults. And so we keep like a running list of all the birds that we have here, so we can show them that.
When you got these birds, where did you first get your first batch at?
You can find hatching eggs, I think, on eBay, but if you're going to have them legally, you've got to have paper tracking where they came from. And so we had to go through somebody that had NPIP certified that had paperwork that they could send us, and so we ended up going through McMurray Hatchery, and then they contract through a farm, I think out in California, that sent us a breeding pair.
Now, do they have these birds available on a regular basis, or is it a special order?
Yes,
Okay.
they're pretty much always available, as far as I know, but yeah, it's a kind of a special order because it doesn't come from their hatchery, and so you put through the order on their site, and then we got a phone call from the actual place they came from, letting us know that they were going to ship them out and just to be ready for them when they got here. So that was the first time we had ever shipped live birds through the mail.
Okay. All right, so what else do we have to see? What other birds you got for us?
We're done here in this is like our exotic birds, our Bantam birds. Let's go down to the pond and see the ducks.
Ducks, we love ducks. Got there, Sam?
I got peacock feather.
Oh wow, great color. Beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we have 8 ducks in here, and the original goal with moving the ducks down here was, one, to leave the chickens alone. They used to be in with the chickens, but we wanted to get them out on the pond. And so we used to have this open. We had this fencing lined up right here, so it would funnel them in to the pond, and it worked great all of last year. And then right about winter, right when it started freezing over, then a predator hit 2 of our ducks somewhere right in here. So it ended up like walking around or something, walking on the ice and then walking in, and killed 2 of our ducks off. And so ever since then we've closed it off because specifically because we have this breed. We have 3 other breeds that are walking around back there. We've got a silver Swedish, we've got a runner duck, and we've got, do we have another one? Or is it just those 2? Oh, it's just those 2. It's just those 2. The other one got killed by the predators. So those 2, we would definitely let them out on the pond, but we can't risk these guys. These guys are hookbill ducks. And so we found out about them, and then we found a lady that was on the other side of the state that had that would breed them for eggs. And so we bought some eggs from her, and we ended up hatching out the one white one we have. Her name's Captain. Since they're hookbills, we thought like Captain Hook, but she ended up being a she. And then we had a viewer after that video. Then we had a viewer that breeds them, that ended up sending us maybe 12 eggs or so to hatch out. And then he sent us some more this year, and that's what and that's what he is here. And so you'll see his bill, as he gets a little older, it'll start to curve more. And so his bill curves more than a normal duck's bill would.
You can already see the curvature already.
And so this is an old breed that had actually gotten down to about 100 ducks left.
Wow.
And it was in the UK, and a guy gathered them all and started a breeding program with them. I want to say in the 80s, so it's been about 40 years. I think there's less than a couple thousand of them in the world. Maybe 1,000 of them in the US, not sure. But that's our goal with these. We've got six of them. The one white with black tips is a snowy hookbill, and then we've got the 2 males there, and then we had the 3 this year, so we have 6 of them.
So they come out with a variety of colors with the way their genes work?
Yeah, I think I think people have mixed them with other breeds,
okay.
And so you'll see a lot of common colors with them, but the one trait is the bill. And so as they get older, if they're good genetics, you'll see the bill start to curve. Some of ours don't curve as much. And so I think for them to get a bigger gene pool, I think they had to introduce other ducks to them, but then to keep the hookbill trait going. So, because otherwise if you just kept them breeding within their same grouping, you'd have a lot of defects and things like that with them. They just wouldn't do well. So
yeah, especially with that small number.
We have had a challenge hatching, and we've never really had a really good hatch rate with them. So they've been a challenge, but our goal was just to build up a little bit bigger number with them. For the most part, we'd keep a few breeding pairs probably in a pen like this, but we'd like to have more out on the pond. But we want to get a few more just so we'd be able to sell some eggs or be able to get some eggs to our viewers, because we do have a lot of viewers that are interested in them and want to help build the numbers on this breed as well. But we wanted to help grow our diversity too and be able to get eggs from a few different people in different parts of the country to get a more diverse gene pool than what we have, because we really right now we just have the 6 from 2 different farms. So
Think we'd be interested in helping out with that, Sailor? Helping out, making sure that they stay around?
Yep.
Yeah.
they're pretty hard to track down. Like we had a lot of people that'll ask us like, how do you get them? We just had done a simple Google search, and then we were lucky that some viewers reached out to us that had them already and that wanted to share some eggs with us. So but yeah, it's one of the things we hope to do. We don't want to really get into the egg business, but we wouldn't mind at least helping build the numbers and get out some more eggs from them.
Well, if you're ever looking for somebody else to help breed them, I would be open to it. One of the breeds that we started helping out with was Welsh Harlequin, because those numbers are down. So we'd be happy to do those too. Let me know.
We found that they're very flighty. We've lost a few last year. We lost them, they just flew away. So
even with clipping their wings, or have you tried that?
we didn't know they were going to fly until they did, and then it was too late.
Oh boy.
So now we've got them, their wings clipped, but it was scary when they just flew away and we didn't know what to do. So this is the aviary. This is a big dream of ours, is to do something like this. And I don't know how we came up with the idea or how we decided on the size, but we went even the night before. So we had somebody come over, and an electrician come over with a big pole truck that could dig these holes and then put these poles in. We got the poles from the power company and had to have like a driver haul them over here, and so it was a big ordeal. But like the night before, we decided to make it a little bit bigger than we initially planned, and so we didn't really know what we were doing getting into it. Like we were just sketching stuff out for like the coop and for the size, and then over the past year we've been shopping for the fencing for it, and then now that's been the biggest challenge for the whole thing, because it's something we can't just throw a big baseball net over it or something. And so that's been the toughest part, is just figuring out the fencing so we can actually get our birds in here. And so I think we finally have a plan on that, but going into it we just would do one thing, and then once we got the poles in, then we were like, all right, let's go shop for the fencing, and that's been the biggest challenge of it. But here we've got our coop, and so this serves a couple purposes. One, it gives the birds a place to get in out of the weather, gives them place for their nests, but then it also gives us a place to store feed. And our big vision for it is to have, some some chairs here on the deck and be able to come in here and have it just all kinds of things growing in here. Have a really cool pond over here. Be able to just come and sit and just like watch all the birds at night. It's kind of our dream for, like, you know, it'd be next year, but just for later in life, just to be able to come in here and have just be a really cool spot to enjoy all kinds of really fun birds in here. And we started to dig a little bit of a pond. We had a neighbor that has a bobcat, and so he dug as much as he could with it. We need to get an excavator in there and go a little deeper and then get like the pond tarp material in there. But we're really close on getting the fencing ordered for it. And so later this year we should be able to start putting that up, and then probably by next year we'll be able to get the birds in here. And this is where we'll house the peafowl, the Mandarin Ducks, the red golden pheasants, and then we've got a few other birds that we'd like to bring in here too.
This is so neat. I can so envision what your dream is probably here with seeing your birds just being able to freely move around, and it'll be really, really neat. I definitely want to come back and see this when you've got it completed.
Yeah. The coop, we had a lot of fun coming up with the raw wood part of it. We have a friend called Cup of Jolene on Instagram, and she has a chicken coop that's made out of raw wood. And so we end up finding a sawmill near us, and they just cut this off the wood before they cut it all up into 2x4s and stuff. And so they just have it in bundles. And so we were able to go buy bundles of it from them and then make the outside of that. Right now on the inside, we've got some guineas in here. We've let guineas free range on the property, and that's eventually what we'll do. But we want them to, for now, we want to use this as their home and then be able to open the door and have them go out during the day and then come in here. Because they harass our chickens. And so whenever we've had them in with our chickens, they really beat them up. The goal for in here is to have some nest boxes throughout here, have roosting bars, and then we'll put wood chips in here. And then we can use that door as like a clean out door if we need to clean it out. And then we'll have that door will just be open all the time. And then they can just hop in and out since it'll be fenced on the outside. And then this side is just for us or for if people come over to keep our feed bins, stuff like that for the birds, be able to keep any paperwork in here. And then we'll have solar on the outside. And so we have it all ready for lights. We just need to get the solar on here. And then that'll help power any kind of pump or filter we need for the pond as well.
I love this look here. It's just beautiful.
We want it to be this really natural little building in the woods. When we've got trees in here, we're starting to plant a few trees, and then once we get the pond done, we'll start to put a lot more plants in here. We'll put a lot of like poles, things off here so they can fly up and be off this center pole. The center pole is about 30 feet tall. The outer poles are about 25 feet tall. So one, it'll give them a ton of space to be able to fly around in here, but then also we want them to be able to roost or do whatever they want, because there will be no predators in here, so they can just be out in the open all the time.
What an amazing place that Jake and Becky have here. And I can just see and visualize Jake's vision for the aviary coming together and what it will one day look like, of having the pheasants and the peacocks running around with some of the chickens and maybe the Samadis in his aviary, and just being able to go in there, to walk in that area and see it. It's gonna be really neat. Maybe have some exotic trees and plants growing in there too. It's gonna be pretty neat. So for those of you who don't know, Jake and Becky do have a channel, YouTube channel called White House on the Hill. So you can follow them and keep along with their progress of the aviary, because I want to keep up with it. It's going to be pretty neat. And when he finishes it, I can't wait to see it. And you know a number of those rare birds that he just showed us? Well, Murray McMurray Hatchery actually carries some of those. I've oftentimes flipped through the catalog because I get a number of my birds from there, but I see some of those rare and exotic birds like, wow, those would be neat. But he's actually doing it. I don't know many people who are raising these exotic birds, but he is. Well, that's it for this second part. there's still more to go. And one of the most exotic birds that Jake has is an emu. So make sure you stay tuned for the next part of this series of my family's visit to White House on the Hill, where I get to experience being around an emu for the first time.